Yep, 2 discard triggers on us, not ideal.
Today on Commander Replay, we check out this casual Winota list and find out if the Immortal Sun is strong enough to bail us out from TinyBones discard. Next on Commander Replay.
Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Winota Joiner of Forces today. Playing some, we'll call it mid-power Winota, I guess. Maybe high power. I don't know. More importantly, it is not CEDH Winota. So for as much Winota as I've played, I have not played it in the casual mid-power, high-power settings. I've mostly played it in CEDH, and there's 2 notable things about that. 1, you have to do everything in your power to stop Thassa's Oracle in CEDH. 2, no one plays board wipes in CEDH, and that's going to dramatically alter the experience of piloting this deck. So take a look at this opening hand. As not great as this hand is, Smothering Tithe is probably good enough, but we're going to mulligan that. That hand would probably still work because Smothering Tithe is ridiculous. This seems fine. No red mana, so hope to have to find that soon, but... Oh, Catcher's Monument is cool. That makes us non-humans, which are important. And as cost reduction is good. We will hope to find a red mana at some point. Take a peek at the land base real quick. Looks okay. There's duels and things in there, so... multicolored lands. Opponent starts with a pregame Leyline of the Void. Yep, those are pretty good. There's a Soul Warden for the Emmara. Those are also pretty good. They will gain a lot of life off of us if our deck does anything at all, so that is a thing. We'll take a quick peek at this deck. This deck list is from Patreon supporter Jared, by the way, and this is his take on Winota. And here comes a Horizon Spellbomb for the Kruphix opponent. So here's the deck list. A lot of 3-drops, not a lot of 5-drops, quite a few 6-drops. So the curve is, I guess I'm used to playing super fast Winota, so to me, the curve looks high for this deck. I would probably tinker with some stuff in this deck, but it's also going to be hard for me to just, not want to build the CEDH version of the deck, because I've spent so much time looking at it and so much time refining to be able to beat consultation decks that it just, that's kind of where my mind's at. So, remembering that not every game needs to be the most savage cutthroat thing imaginable will be important for building the deck, but there's probably a couple things we can tinker with here as we get going. There's an Immortal Sun. We're a ways away from that. Play the Plains, and tap out and pass. So yes, we are playing Winota. 2 red-white for a 4/4. Whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library, put a human creature card from among them onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn, rests on the bottom. Pretty good. Possibly the strongest Boros commander ever printed. Haven't had a lot of chances to play Zerda yet, especially in the CEDH setting, but, those are probably your top 2. I'd say Gerard not too far behind that. Aurelia somewhere in the mix. Feather certainly towards the top as well. Opponent getting busy with the Soul Warden. Gonna poke the TinyBones opponent for 1. And they do get their commander into play. That is Emmara. That is Penguin Warcry piloting Emmara. So this is going to be a tokens deck. It's been a while since I've seen Emmara, actually. And I don't know if they've gotten any new toys. Probably everyone's gotten new toys over the past year or so. But yeah, this deck can really spit out a lot of tokens. Tokens with lifelink is a thing too, because not only are you not successfully hitting them, they're also gaining life back. It does present some challenges. It can get a bit combo-y with the tapping and untapping. I feel like there's an infinite in that deck. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, it's just going to spit out a lot of tokens. Could be pretty good. I remember when it came out, it was kind of the arch-enemy commander of that set, so something to keep in mind. Next up, we have Frodo the Chef piloting Kruphix, God of Horizons. And this is going to be a ramp deck. Saw a little bit of this deck earlier today when we were filming. It is a Helix Pinnacle deck. Don't know if there's other win conditions in it. But yeah, their goal is going to be to make a ton of mana. And then finally, we've got Kithron piloting TinyBones Trinket Thief, one that I haven't actually seen yet. 2 mana for a 1/2. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent discarded a card this turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Pay 6. Each opponent with no cards in their hand loses 10 life. So, discard tribal? Probably. Seems not great. Also, I think we're last in the turn order. That's also not great. Play this Plains and pass the turn like that. Still looking for red mana. That's going to be a thing. Perhaps I should have mulliganed to 6. I'm going to do some attacking into the Kruphix. Sure. Opponent's going to poke us for 1 with the Soul Warden. Yep. There's an intangible virtue for opponent, so the token's getting bigger. Now they've got Vigilance. They've got a lifelinker already. They got that when they attacked with the Emmara. Yep. Getting that token party started. It happens quick in that deck. They're already starting to generate value with their commander. It's a thing. It's a thing. Appetite for the Unnatural. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Gonna shoot that Ley Line of the Void. Opponent perhaps has plans for their graveyard. Man, I would go for a Burnish Heart right here. Got the Oketra's Monument lined up, but I really want to find some red mana. There's the mountain. All right, so not dead just yet. Fantastic. Play the mountain. Play the Oketra's Monument. Next turn we can probably cast Winota. Makes the most sense. But definitely a little bit slow here. They've got Boros Signet, Felwar Stone, Goldmere, and Soul Ring, of course. We just proceeded to miss all of them. That's the issue here. Sometimes that will happen. Also, we're last in the turn order, which makes that all feel so much worse. I think we're in the... We need to not die fast. That's like a thing. And, as you get later into the game, Oketra's Monument can do some work for you by, giving you 2 or 3 cost reduction when you're able to cast a few spells in a turn. Opponent going on the attack again. Looks like spreading it around a little bit. Emmara is going to make another token. Yep, that's how it goes. Soul Warden going to trigger. They're going to gain some life. Getting more creatures, getting more life. Things looking good for Emmara in this moment. See who brought the removal. Rites of Flourishing. That is a card that I like to see right here. Hopefully we hit some lands. I really want to hit 2 lands next turn. Actually, we have 2 lands. Perfect. Finding a few more lands after that wouldn't be awful either. I talked about it in a video that I filmed earlier today. With Rites of Flourishing, if you can hit 2 lands consistently for several turns, you will probably be ahead of at least some of your opponents, if not all of them. Whoever's only hitting like 1 land a turn, you can surpass. If they're hitting no lands a turn, that's the worst. That feels terrible. So yeah, you can... Rites of Flourishing does create some incentive for you to be able to get ahead of people, especially if you like a high land count and or things that find lands. Like, you guys know me, I'm a big advocate for Gift of Estates type stuff. There's a land tax in this deck. I usually like to run at least 2 of those in a white deck if I can. I get it. It's not the most attractive thing ever, but like hitting your lands, 1 allows you to play the game. Like if we didn't hit that mountain right there, we're probably going to have a real bad time. So, just not getting stuck. But 2, also as the game moves along, like some people will miss their land drops and you can get ahead of those people just by like surviving and making all your land drops. So, turning 1 card into multiple lands, usually a pretty good thing. And I like to carry a couple of those if I can. Occasionally I've run up to 3 of them. I would say that it's actually pretty good to run 3 of them, like especially in a Boros deck, but it's just that discipline of like, you got to cut something. You got to cut something to get it in there. I also like a lot of removal. It's hard to run a lot of ramp and a lot of removal while also having a lot of creatures, equipment, and everything else. So here's a painful quandary for opponent. Oh yeah, that's going to be super painful. This card, pretty ridiculous. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. Really? Opponent's going to Sundering Growth or Oketra's Monument with a painful quandary? That's painful. Yeah, that was pretty savage. Seemed a little bit uncalled for, especially painful quandary on the table right there. Brings it back to our turn. There's a Lina. Lina's kind of high on the mana. It's not exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, losing that Oketra's Monument, that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt pretty bad. There's a Spine Rock Knoll. This might be the turn for that. I might be on Aurelia and Bruce Tarl type stuff, honestly. Yeah, play Sunholm. Get Bruce Tarl. No, we're just going to lose a bunch of life to Painful Quandary here. That's what's going to happen. Hopefully our board doesn't get wiped. Bruce Tarl can gain us a bunch of life back. That's pretty important. Targets itself. Play the Spine Rock Knoll. Hideaway. Something cool under here. Lantax, Gisela, Godo. What does Godo find in this deck? There's a Feast and Famine. There's a Light and Shadow. That looks like about it. Sword of the Animist is all right. Next to a Gisela. Gisela is cool. There's a lot of tokens. There'll be a lot of damage. We can kind of blunt that army with Gisela, so that's a good thing to keep around. Rites of Flourishing trigger for opponent. Cultivate for opponent into the Painful Quandary. Anything we got to watch out for, there's a black deck with 7 cards in hand. Going to draw 2 more on their draw step, and, likelihood of a board wipe, it's a thing. Which actually means maybe the Immortal Sun. We'll see. I guess turn order. Like, if we slam Aurelia, they definitely play a board wipe if they have it. Maybe we go on the Immortal Sun plan and try to slow roll everything here. Ooh. Opponent just sends everything. They go down to 23. Wow. Felwar Stone, Painful Quandary. The good news is the Painful Quandary does keep them from just having absolutely absurd amounts of life. Still at 45, they paid 5 life for a Felwar Stone, so that's all a thing. Rites of Flourishing trigger. Githron says, I feel your hatred. Strike me down and your journey to the dark side will be complete. Ominous Seas into the Painful Quandary. Rites of Flourishing, Ominous Seas going to be pretty good together. Return to Nature on the Painful Quandary. That's going to be good for us. Now we're not going to lose all of our life going into that. Moment of Truth, see if Kith has a board wipe. Did I introduce our opponents, by the way? I did. I did do that. Rites of Flourishing trigger. If he's got a board wipe, he's got to play it. Yep, there it is. Toxic Deluge X3. Bruce Tarl down. Was hoping to keep that alive, but I get it. Emmara's got to be slowed down. So I think that's going to put me on the Immortal Sun plan since things are slowing down a sec here. That'll give us nice value as long as that sticks around. TinyBones has incentive to make us want to discard our hands, so having Immortal Sun in play, black decks don't deal with artifacts particularly well. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has one or fewer cards in their hand, they lose 3 life. So is that like the rack number 2, I think? And there's a waste not. Don't play a wheel. But you know what? Rites of Flourishing gonna counteract the discard deck pretty good also. But if we get the Immortal Sun in and it sticks, that's also gonna counteract discard pretty well. So yeah, I think that's gonna be the play. I think it's too we don't want to risk getting it discarded to something. There's a Balefire Dragon. That might be a little big for this deck. I get it. It's cool. I just don't know that this is the right home for it. We do catch that second land that I've been talking about, so going to stay on our land drops here. Can certainly appreciate that. It's a Nykthos. Has some value as things get going for us as well. So play the Immortal Sun. Kind of drew the expensive half of our deck. That's what I was talking about. I think the curve might be a touch high for this deck. I think maybe get it down just a little bit. It doesn't need to come down a ton, but just a touch. Couple cards, maybe like 2 or 3 cards, I think would be probably ideal. Generally, you want your humans to be expensive because you don't want to have to cast them. Balefire Dragon, a very expensive non-human. So yeah, it is interesting for me having to play a more measured game plan with Winota because of things like board wipes, which in CEDH is just get it in there as fast as possible and start turning things sideways because not a ton of creature interaction. A lot of counterspell type stuff, so everyone's got to be on guard against Consultation, Thassa's Oracle, Underworld Breach, and, a couple other things, but it allows a lot of space for creatures to be really effective. Opponent's going to Harmonize, draw 3 cards. Always nice. Rites of Flourishing, Ominous Seas will trigger. Rites of Flourishing will trigger the Ominous Seas twice. Pretty good. Pretty good. Elvish Mystic. Enclave Cryptologist levels up, loots and draws. They leveled up. It's now into the loot mode. Rotting Rats enters the battlefield. Each player discards a card. What are we getting rid of? Fireflux Squad is cool, but it is kind of a roll of the dice. Being that all the creatures we have currently are expensive, although that does allow us to make 2 plays in a turn. Lena is cool. Lena makes tokens, which are non-humans. Thinking about the Balefire Dragon. Balefire Dragon's good for suppressing the tokens. I think Fireflux Squad. Is it cool? And would I like to use it in this moment? Yes. But its effect is the least measurable in that we could hit something good, we could hit something bad, we don't really know. We're going to want to catch a few lands off the top right here. That would be ideal. That's going to trigger a Waste Knot a bunch of times. That's bad. There's a Gibbering Descent, probably coming in with Madness right here. I'm sure I'm not going to like that. Forget exactly what it does, but something with discarding. I forget when. When is key. Opponent gets some zombies. Ooh, Panharmonicon in the graveyard for the Simic opponent. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, yeah, that's what I thought. It's no good. That is into play. Opponent's down to 16. TinyBones into play, yep. Yeah, that was why I wanted to get this Immortal Sun into play. There's a Dark Ritual. Necrogen Miss, more discard. This is going to be rough. We're going to have to discard 2 at our upkeep. Keep Aurelia then. She can trigger Winota twice. TinyBones gets a trigger at the end step. Yep, 2 discard triggers on us. Not ideal. Balefire down. Waste Knot will trigger. Another 2/2. Necrogen Miss trigger. Discard Lena. There's a land. There's an Atali. Atali's pretty good. Immortal Sun trigger. Smothering Tithe. Smothering Tithe is also cool. There is a Rites of Flourishing on the battlefield, so that definitely has to come in. Play the Mountain. Anything we don't cast, we're going to lose. It's not great. We'll have exactly enough to cast Smothering Tithe and one of our 6 drops. Still thinking it's going to be Aurelia. Actually, double check our color situation. So use all the colorless mana on this. Get Aurelia. We do not have enough white mana. It's got to be Atali then. Well, that sucks. Aurelia is good. Atali is also good. Past turn like that. Someone drew at the end step with something. I don't know what, but oh, Hellbent trigger maybe. Oh yeah, TinyBones trigger. Triggers a Smothering Tithe. We are gonna have a lot of mana. So hopefully after we get through all of our discards, we'll have a couple big things we can go to. We've kind of lost some of our big stuff here to discard, which is not the best. Opponent's got to do their discarding. Swiftfoot Boots for Emmara. Yep. Could have used those with our Atali. Would have been nice. Thunderfoot Baloth coming into play. That's a really serious card when you're talking about tokens. Skull Clamp coming in. Also very serious when talking about tokens. You're going to swing into Frodo. Only safe attack for Emmara. They'll get a token. It'll be a 2/2 because of the Intangible Virtue. It's a 4/4 because of Thunderfoot Baloth. Yeah. With Trample, Vigilance, and Lifelink, those are some keywords. TinyBones trigger. Smothering Tithe trigger. Both discard triggers for opponent. Ooh, opponent loses a Peregrine Drake. It's a pretty good card. Journey of Discovery down. Helps you find your lands. A Waste Not will trigger. Opponent draws a card. Triggers our Smothering Tithe. Rites of Flourishing, Ominous Seas will trigger, and that triggers Smothering Tithe again. Game with lots of triggers. Now, 4 counters on the Ominous Seas. Ooh, Frodo's been missing the lands. Turn 7, still on 4 lands. So, been whiffing pretty hard with the Rites of Flourishing, so I'm sure they're very sad about the Journey of Discovery, because that's the type of thing you want to get going with extra land plays. Seedborn Muse coming in. That will help them a bit, but it doesn't, like, put more lands into play. They're going to draw and discard. Probably looking for the land. It's going to trigger all the stuff, which is not ideal. Ominous Seas, Smothering Tithe, and that might trigger a Waste Knot. Yep, that will trigger a Waste Knot. Discards this creature. Plays the land, so they found the land, but now they're Hellbent, and I think that does something. Beginning of each end step, an opponent discard a card. Oh, yeah, they're liable to take some damage from the TinyBones ability. We're up to 10 treasures. Ideally, something that would allow us to, like, spend a lot of mana is what we want to find. I don't know. Yeah, we've seen most of the big cards in our deck. There aren't that many left, but maybe something with a cool activated ability could be good. Light and Shadow would actually be really good. So like Godo, Light and Shadow, something like that. I don't know that we've shuffled since we put Godo to the bottom. Grenzo would be reasonable. Yeah, anything that'll allow us to spend a lot of mana because we have a lot of mana. And we'd like to spend it. Ooh, Vesuva in copying the Cabal coffers. Yeah. We're going to have to try and deal with TinyBones over there. They are going to have a lot of mana, and it's going to be a problem. We can put Double Strike on something. That's the thing I just realized. So I've been worried about like the 2/2s because they can kill Atali, but we can just Double Strike it and... Oh, Playcrafter, really? So Atali not going to get it done right here. That's bad. Don't love that. Sacrifice Atali makes me very sad. Gets Grimoire. Ooh. Yep, it's getting worse. It is getting worse. Manescape Refractor. We're going to need some big draws. TinyBones trigger. Opponent's down to 8. That's good. Won't take that much to kill them. Got a lot of blockers on the ground, though. Would love to not discard this Aurelia, but there's just no way around that. Discard Aurelia. Shrieking Affliction's also going to get us. Waste Knot's going to trigger. Gets Grimoire is going to trigger. And big draws. We need big draws. Land is not it. Bastion Protector is fine. Loyal Apprentice is a card. Excellent. All right. So play the Plains, play Bastion Protector, play Loyal Apprentice. I like Loyal Apprentice right here because it makes Thopters with haste. This is a really good pickup. Cast Winota. Start using these treasures. Leave up all of our utility lands. This is a human, so like attacking with it doesn't do that much. Go to combat. Get a Loyal Apprentice trigger. Use another big hit right here. Yeah, no place to send the 3/2, so send this into Kithron. That will get a Winota trigger. And we whiff. Ouch. Oh, we lost Kiki in there. Kiki can do some wild stuff. So, sad to lose the Kiki. Double strike the Thopter. Actually, no, we could have saved that for, like, the Baloth. Which, yeah, we should have did that. Whoops. Opponent's down to 4, actually. I think they're in trouble of dying to their own effects. And one thing we can do, too, we can bounce our commander so that we have a card in hand when they try to activate TinyBones. So that's also a thing to think about. We will pass the turn. TinyBones going to lose a life right here. It's a big deal. That is a big deal. So I'll be honest, I was going to write off the Immortal Sun as like, you probably don't need the Immortal Sun for this deck because I'm used to playing Winota that wins in 5 or 6 turns or even sooner than that. But in this game situation, it's been awesome. Like, Rites of Flourishing, it works beautifully with that because we've been hitting our lands really well. The fact that opponents on mass discard, some sort of onboard effect that allows you to draw repeatedly is really good against mass discard. So it's been counteracting that really well. The cost reduction's been great. It just does a lot of nice things. And I kind of discount it a little bit more than I should. Like, I don't run it all that often because, I'm always kind of focused on, like, this is the card that's awesome with this deck that does this thing. The Immortal Sun's just kind of, like, good all over the place and does a lot of things and, like, isn't really bad in any way. So you don't think of it as, like, this needs to go in this deck, but it's been doing work now that it's here. It's survived for quite a while, which obviously helps. Cards that don't survive, they don't tend to do as much for you. But yeah, just the fact that it's here really counteracting the discard. Like, we'd probably be just about out of it without this Immortal Sun. So, like I said, I was thinking about cutting it, as I was looking at the deck list and thinking about what I was going to change when we get to the review later on. I'm like, actually it's been way better than I thought. So yeah, Immortal Sun, probably just going to keep that in here because turns out it's pretty valuable. Opponent's going to put Swiftfoot Boots on the Baloth. Yep. The thing we have to watch out for is that with double Cabal Coffers, opponent can activate TinyBones a lot of times, and that's not good. Opponent has a Strip Mine. Let's ask him if they want to Strip Mine one of the coffers before untap. There's also a Cabal Stronghold. That's so much mana. Opponent has Thunderfoot Ballot. They didn't put a Skull Clamp on it, though. I probably would have put that on first, though. Mana's limited, but... So we're all doing the math about when TinyBones will actually kill Kithron. Frodo doesn't have a card to discard, so that won't trigger TinyBones, I don't think. Unless they activate this thing. 4-4 going into Frodo. By the way, while it's here, Loyal Apprentice is one of the best cards in a Winota deck. It's definitely in the top as far as things that make non-humans. In my opinion, a must include. So if you're playing Winota at any level, Loyal Apprentice is a great card. The fact that it and the Thopters have haste is huge because then it doesn't need to be in play for a while to be good. You can just draw it off the top. You're like, crap, I need non-humans. Get it right in. They've both got haste and you are ready to roll. Also, if you're doing the Breath of Fury thing, every combat you'll get a new Thopter, which is a really big deal. And those Thopters have flying. So you can just keep putting them on Thopters. As long as there's no flying blockers, there often aren't. Then you are truly infinite with Breath of Fury. Skull Clamp on the token right there, sure. Opponent takes a shot for 4 down to 28. 10 Commander from the Emmara. Emmara slowly getting there on them. Glare of Subdual, that's really bad. Tap an untapped creature you control, tap target artifact or creature. I think that won a major standard event in 2006 or something like that. Whenever Ravnica came out. This card is really disruptive. TinyBones trigger, Smothering Tithe trigger, Shrieking Affliction, Necrogen Mists, and Gibbering Descent. Rites Flourishing, Ominous Seas, Smothering Tithe. Oh, opponent's going to level up without looting. Kith's going to survive, and we're probably going to die. Opponent's going to draw a card. Yep. Should have a Guide to Reach Sanitarium or something, but we do not. Yep, opponent not looting right there is probably going to get us all killed. Unless they find a way to discard. Opponent's going to shoot a Cabal Coffers of the Strip Mine. We've been talking about that for a little bit. That cuts down the number of times that they can activate TinyBones, which seems incredibly relevant. Opponent can't use their Ancient Tomb, thankfully. Cuts down their mana a little bit. But there's still going to be plenty going on here that, it's all going to be a problem. Opponent cracks their Myriad Landscape, sure. Gibbering Descent, Necrogen Mists. Opponent's still got 7 cards in hand, also. Smothering Tithe, the Rites. Oh, there's a Bubbling Muck. Cool. Gonna double their mana. All of this could have been prevented. Opponent's gonna Growth Spiral. Triggers Ominous Seas, Smothering Tithe. Oh, there's a Deserted Temple now, so more Cabal Coffer activations. There's a Delirium Skeins. Awesome. So everyone's going to have 0 cards in hand. Trigger Waste Not, Geth's Grimoire. Bunch of triggers go off. I'm going to try to play it really cool with the Sanctum of Eternity. See if we can catch them to tap out in a weird way. So I'm not going to necessarily go with just the first one. Oh, and Manascape Refractor is also a Cabal Coffers. Awesome. Yeah, they have so much mana. Yep, there's an activation. Lose 10 life. Down to 17. There's an activation. Lose 10 life down to 7. Opponent's got 15 mana left. Yeah, nothing we can do. We're just going to die. Oh, I'm pretty annoyed. I am pretty annoyed. I've gone last in the last 2 games that I've played. And when you play last, you are just at the mercy of other people at the table making correct plays, and it sucks. It sucks when they don't. Sanctum of Eternity. Wait, return target. Oh, activate this only during your turn. Oh yeah, we're boned. Yeah, good game. And down we all go. Yeah, that was frustrating. It was super frustrating. Okay, so things I would change about this deck. Like I said, it's weird for me playing this in a non-CDH setting because that's like almost entirely what I've played it in. I would probably try to get this mana curve down a little bit. Gisela's good. I would keep Gisela because Gisela's really good. Balefire tends to be slow. So I would cut that, try to get something a little bit cheaper. You know, honestly, like as good as Atali is, I would probably cut Atali from this deck. So like looking at this deck, it looks a lot like one of my Aurelia decks. So it feels like a little bit more Boros-y good stuff than like hyper-focus Winota do the thing kind of deck, and that's fine. Winota is very, very strong. You don't need the strongest possible Winota deck. Totally get that. It's insane when you do. Okay, so looking at a couple things, the 3-drop, we're also really high on 3-drops, and it's tough because some of them are not replaceable. We'll figure out which ones are. Ideally, if we can, if we can get a few more 2-drops in the deck that are going to do nice things for us. Okay, so there's a couple things that I would definitely add to this deck. And those are some of the really good non-human producers. So we've already got Goblin Rabblemaster in the deck. Legion Warboss is also ridiculous. Legion Warboss is almost exactly as good as Goblin Rabblemaster. Goblin Rabblemaster gets a little bigger on its own. And again, this makes tokens that have haste, so like this doesn't need to be in play for a turn to still get a trigger off of it, which is super important. And note that, like, because these things have haste, that makes them more valuable than, like, Krenko or Brimaz. Krenko I might keep, just because it does have ability to, like, generate more and more stuff. Brimaz tends to, Brimaz hasn't performed for me the best lately, just in, like, a general sense, because people tend to block the 1/1. You don't have necessarily the best ability to control where the 1/1's going. So, as cool as I think Brimaz is, if I needed to cut a card, I would probably cut Brimaz. So we'll just take a peek at cards that I would add here. So there's a Legion Warboss, would definitely add that. I'm not sure about this Agitator Ant. Goading stuff is cool, and it is certainly disruptive. At 3 mana, it's totally playable, but I don't know that you need it for the deck. I would probably cut this Atali. Like, when things are going well with Winota, you don't need Atali. The fact that there's not a lot of haste in the deck right now, Atali really wants haste because if people see it, they're gonna try to kill it. So I would get rid of that, and just also it helps bring the curve down a little bit. There's another card I think you really want, and that is Geist Honored Monk. 1, you don't have that many 5-drops. 2, Geist Honored Monk gets really large based on the number of creatures you have in play, which, that's the game plan with Winota. So, like, even in CEDH games, it's not uncommon for this to be at, like, 10 or more power, which makes it really valuable to flip off the top because you can smash it into things pretty hard. Plus, it makes 2 flyers, also good stuff. So I would definitely get those going. I would really love to cut a couple 3-drops if I were going to do that. This Bastry Cat looks fine. I get it if it's a cool card and you have it in your collection already, like, you can certainly use it. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures attack this turn, create that many 1/1 white soldiers that are tapped and attacking. As cool as that is, you don't get the trigger right away. So, like, you wouldn't get that attack trigger until next turn because they wouldn't cause Winota's attacking ability to go off. So I'd probably cut Bastry. You have a couple swords in the deck. I get it. I'd probably cut the Mirran Crusader. It's cool, but it just, it's fine. Protection from 2 colors is totally cool. Everyone plays green. So is it good? Yes, it's good. Is it better than every other thing that you can be running in the deck? Not necessarily. So I'd probably cut these 2. It helps bring the 3-drops down a little bit. I think the deck's always going to be a little bit 3-drop heavy. There's just a lot of good cards at 3 mana, so, that is what it is. But that does free up a little bit of space for us. There's a card that I like. I don't know if you're super well set up for it. With Smothering Tithe in play, it's going to be good. You really want, like, both Pia and Kieran's creatures that produce artifacts, but that's Jorkadine. So you do need Metalcraft. And, if you're running both Pia cards, these you can flip and they will make artifacts with Winota triggers. In addition to Smothering Tithe, also Loyal Apprentice makes artifact triggers, which is also really valuable. So if you're flipping those, having Jorkadine come in with Metalcraft makes your team huge. And this has been really good for me in the CDH version of the deck, because with Adriana, you have to wait a whole nother turn to attack if you flip it. So this happens right away, and that makes it a really big deal. That being the case, I would probably add this Pia and Kieran. This one makes 2 artifacts, which is notable. Let's take a peek at the removal. As far as the creatures, like, there's a million other creatures that you can run, but these are some of the, like, really, like, high leverage ones that have been performing really well for me. Oh, another one, too, is Thalia's Lancers. So this is a human that you can flip, 4/4 first strike, get any legendary permanent. Could be this Immortal Sun. You could put a Throne of the God Pharaoh in there. Throne of the God Pharaoh makes people die really quickly. So, you know, if you're looking to power up, that's certainly a card. If you're not looking to do that, then, you know, don't put that in, because it will make the game very short. And then, of course, there's like a million hate bears that you can run in the deck, and, you know, it just depends if you want to go down that road or not. Magus of the Moon is insane in CEDH because everyone's playing like 3 or 4 color decks with no basics in play, so they usually can't cast anything, and that's fantastic. Other things to think about in the deck are removal and protection. I would love to see a Lightning Greaves in here. Keeping Winota alive is super important. Both Mother of Ruins and the core one, what's the Giver of Runes, both really good. Giver does allow you to trigger Winota, which is a big deal. I would maybe look at something like a Legion's Initiative. There's a Teferi's Protection already in the deck, but like, I don't know that you can really have enough protection for your creatures in this deck. A Legion's Initiative could be very, very solid. It could be a lot of other things. You could use an Eerie Interlude also. But yeah, once you get your stuff into play, protecting it is the next step. So there are a lot of ways to do that in white. I would run multiples of those. You've got Flawless Maneuver already. You've got Teferi's already. I might add at least one more because, you know, getting your stuff in and protecting it, that's the game, really, with this deck. You've got this Lena up here, too. Lena does a couple things. Its main problem is that it's 6 mana. Oh, if it was 5 mana, it would be so much better. Just a little bit clunky at 6. It's not the fastest thing ever. You could theoretically cut Silverwing Squadron, so Silverwing Squadron doesn't create the tokens until it attacks, which means that it's a little bit slow, but I have had games where it's been relevant, so it's not the best, it's not the worst, it's pretty good. You know, I would probably cut it for mana curve considerations, you know, by adding a Pia and Kieran into the deck. That'll give you 2 tokens on the fly that are ready to go for the next turn. Waiting 2 turns to do that thing with Silverwing is not great, so that's something to think about. Let's take a peek at the removal. I don't think we've looked at that all that much. We were in big time need of some removal that game. Winota is just always going to be a little removal light, just the way the deck's going to be. I'd probably run a Remorseful Cleric in addition to the Selfless Spirit, and I might also look at something like a Dousing Dagger. It's a lot of good mana. Although the blockers are somewhat relevant against this deck. They will soak up some damage. Oh, you want to know cards have been ridiculous for me? Fiend Hunter and Palace Jailer. Even as like temporary removal, these have been fantastic. In CEDH, they're basically permanent removal because the game doesn't usually go long enough for people to get their stuff back. So they've been fantastic in that setting. Flipping those off the top is really great, and that gives you some type of removal against stuff when that's really important. So those have been really, really good. Palace Jailer also gives you card draw. Winota doesn't draw particularly well, so that's a thing that is very relevant. But yeah, this is the removal package. It's a little light. I get it. It's Winota. It's always going to be a little bit light in Winota. You could add another board wipe if you wanted. Blasphemous Act is always good, just in case you fall behind on stuff. Wouldn't mind an Austere Command. We would have needed one of those to... you could even go like a Cleansing Nova also. If you're just wanting to hit like artifacts and enchantments. That would have been really helpful against the mono black player there. And we probably wouldn't have died to stuff if we could get rid of some of those things. So that does, we are a little bit over right here. Let's see if we can cut some stuff back down. Yeah, you know, unless it depends on your meta. I'd probably cut this Agitator Ant. It does look cool, though. There is something to say for just being disruptive and making your opponents have to attack with stuff when they don't want to. Is that a May, though? Yeah, it's a May, so, like, when your opponent gets the choice, that always reduces the power level of a card, so I probably would skip that one. And... oh, you don't have, what's it called? Gold Knight Commander. Gold Knight Commander should probably be in here. That card's ridiculous. Your team just gets bigger. What would I get rid of to facilitate that? This is Evasion. Evasion's pretty good. You've got the Tutors in the deck. I actually don't run these in mine right now, and I've thought about going back to them. You've got Kiki Jiki also, like... if you're not planning to combo with Kiki, it's not super necessary in the deck. Like, I get it. It does cool stuff. If you can copy a hero of Bladehold, you can do some wild things. So we need to cut 3 cards. What 3 cards am I getting rid of? I would get rid of. Do I think Brimaz is really cool and just a cool card? Yeah, I do. I'd probably get rid of it. Keep it if you want to. I think he's a sweet card. He's got lots of flavor, cool art, all good stuff. But we do need to lighten up on the 3 drops just a teeny bit. Probably could lighten up on a 4 drop. I'm eyeing the Solemn Simulacrum. It's a good card. It is a non-human. It gets a land, maybe does a lot of good things. Yeah, we're going to hang on to that. In CEDH, you don't need Solemn Simulacrum, so, that's where I'm coming from. Fireflux Squad is basically like a second Winota. Yeah, I think you can cut Fireflux Squad. It's cool, but I just don't think it's as good as anything else in the deck. And 1 to go. Oh, yeah, and, probably the... Do we have the other recruiter? Yeah, I'd probably cut the other recruiter also, and probably even this Kiki. If you're not planning to combo with them, I just don't think you need them that much. So based on those changes right there, I would add a Throne of the God Pharaoh back in. Boom, Throne of the God Pharaoh. And that's what I would do with this deck. So a few tweaks. Basically just like trimming back the upper parts of the curve a little bit. Winota is not the best ramp deck. It doesn't draw. It doesn't ramp in the way that like Aurelia can if you slam Sword of the Animist and Mask of Memory. But it doesn't need to either. Like just having non-humans in play and attacking with like 2 or 3 of them and Winota, that's all the card advantage you really need. You don't need to generate a lot of mana when that happens. You don't need to draw a lot of cards. It's when she gets blown up that you need mana to recast her. But, if things are going well, then you don't need that much mana and you don't need that much card draw in the deck. So that's kind of the stuff that I would do. You could always look at more protection options. I think I talked about Lightning Greaves. I would definitely add that. I would make sure you have some lands that add haste. So Hainware Battlements and Flamekin Village. Would definitely add those to the deck. Cut some basics. But other than that, yeah, I think that's what I would change about the deck. Just bring the curve down slightly, maybe a little bit more at 2 mana, trim out the 3 drops a little bit, definitely trim back at 6 and 7, and just kind of balance things out. We added some 5 drops because there weren't very many at all, and I think some of them are really good. Again, Jorkadine with Metalcraft is just like instant, lots of damage. Thalia's Lancers finds Throne of the God Pharaoh amongst other cool things. Other legends, Immortal Sun, put Aurelia into hand, put Godo into hand, put Gisela into hand, and whatever else. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.
Hey guys, in addition to my TCG affiliate player link, I now have an affiliate link with Flipside Gaming, an LGS from my hometown. You can use the promo code REPLAY to save 10% on your next order over $10. Both affiliate links are in the description below. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. We have one new Patreon supporter in Nate Sanford. Nate, you are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below.